Okay, I want to demonstrate some Excel skills and features that you're going to run into on your assignment. So I'm going to use this here. This is some data that I've pulled off the internet, and it's about some crops for the last 3 years or so. So I want to actually leave this original data the way it is, just in case something happens. So I'm going to make a copy of this. So I go down to the bottom tab there, move or copy, and I want to create a copy here. And so I'm just going to say okay. And so it's created a draft to, I'm going to just click and drag it over here, and then I'm going to rename this. And I think maybe the first thing that I'll call this thing is just make it look, I'm going to make this look professional, because right now it looks pretty ugly. So I can tell that crop production is the title. So I'm probably going to merge these cells together, at least maybe even more. And so I'm going to highlight those cells, and right here is merge. And so I've just merged those. I'm going to leave this up so I can see it. There we go. So I've just merged those cells, and then I can format this a little bit, change the font if I want to, the font style, but I'm just going to leave it. But I will make it larger, and I'll just click this A, to make it a little bit bigger. And obviously I could color the text if I want, and I think I will. Actually, I'm going to leave it white, and then I'll probably just fill in this cell with a little bit of blue, something like that. And so I don't mind. I can merge the next row underneath as well, and I'll fill that as well. Maybe not quite as dark. You can play around with this a little bit, but I'll probably turn it again white. And so yeah, you can play around with how things look. Let's say that I wanted to do this. I wanted to format one of these. I'll fill it the same blue, and again I'll turn it white. And then after I've formatted, I can also come over and click the format paintbrush, and then come and click these other cells. Again, if you double click it, it'll stay on. And so I could click any cell, and it will, if I've double clicked it, and it will turn all those to match the format. And then escape to get out of that. But I'm going to take off those two there. Okay, and maybe I'll have these keywords stand out a little bit as well. And maybe I could make them the same fill colors if we're going with blue there that I was using, maybe just a little darker. Okay, maybe I'll fill that in. Don't like that little spot there. Something like that. And sometimes borders help as well to make things stand out. Maybe a thick outside border for that title area. And these maybe want some all borders so that it's easier to see these kinds of things. Again, you can throw borders around here if you wanted to. Okay, I'm looking at these numbers here, and I see that they're acres. They're not money or anything, but they're maybe a little hard to see. So I can right click a cell and format it, and there's a number tab here, and so there's general stuff, but there's numbers and currency. And so I know it's not currency. I'm going to pick a number here, and you can specify the decimal places, and I don't have, everything's rounded. I'm just going to leave that, but I do maybe throw in some commas so that the number's easier to see. Now it just needs to be stretched a little bit to fit in there. Okay. Oh, the decimal places showed up. I don't want that. Go back in there, format the cell, decimal places, I should have said 0. Okay, so that's fine now. And again, I can use that paintbrush, double click, and I should be able to highlight all of these. And that's just happening because there's not enough space. If I come up here and double click, it'll stretch the cells to make it fit. Hey, maybe quickly show you alignment in cells too. Maybe I want these numbers to be centered, and so I could highlight all of this, and over here I can center things, or left or right align. I think I want them. I can also center it in the cell as well. So if I was to stretch, this cell and make it really large, the numbers are at the bottom. But if I was to click this, and I could put it in the middle of a cell. It doesn't really make sense for me to do that right now, but I don't like centered either. I think either left or right. I'll center the year, but over here I'll probably either keep it to the left or to the right, and so I'll just put that at the left. It looks like I've got some borders here that I don't want right now. Let's see here. I'm sorry, no borders is good. Okay, except it took it off of there. Just a right border here should work. Okay, so it's looking fine now. Another feature we sometimes use is wrapping text. So let's say that this cell here, for whatever reason, I need to make it smaller. And so you can see that it's cutting off some of these words. So what I can do is highlight these cells here and tell them to wrap instead of being cut off. And then when I resize these, if I highlight, I'm going to highlight all of these rows at once. And I'm going to resize just one of them, and it'll make them all exactly the same. So I'm going to resize them all to that. And so now you can see that it's wrapped the text in these cells. So that's wrapping text. It's pushing my text below my screen. I don't really like how that looks. So I'm actually going to just take all that, put it all back the way it was. And so I think that's pretty good for formatting stuff. Let me just make that, sure everything fits there. There we go. So I'm kind of happy with just how this looks as far as a professional look. And now I want to start working with some formulas. So I'm actually going to make another copy here. Make a copy. I'll say move to the end this time. And there it is at the end. Now I'm going to rename that. And this time I'm just going to call this one formulas. Okay, and some obvious formulas that we would see here is, some totals. So I got some borders here that I shouldn't have. I'm just going to delete these borders here. I'll go no borders, and then I'll just throw back on that top border actually. There we go. Now down here, I'm going to make some totals. And so I want to make this stand out. Usually people care a little more about these totals, so I'll make that size 12 font in there. And so I really want to just add all these things up. And so there's built-in formula features. So all I have to do is highlight all these cells here, and I just leave that right there where I want my formula to show up. And then there's a formulas tab up here. And there's a bunch of, these ones are fairly common here with this auto sum. There's a little drop down arrow. And that's what I want to do, is just add all these up. And then just hit, just add. And then when I click on this cell, it tells me what it did. So sum is adding B4 to B19. So it took B4 and added to B19. So if I did put a value in here, it would have included it. But that's good there. And then I can actually just grab this here and drag it this way, and it'll guess that I want to do exactly the same thing. So I can click in these cells and see how the formula has changed. All I need to do is just give this a little more room. Okay, but it kind of anticipates what you want for those formulas, just like that. And so the totals are working. And again, you can make those stand out in a certain way if you want. Maybe over here you want the averages or something like that. So I might do something similar. Maybe leave a little space there, and then up here, we can do the average. Let's make this look good. Capital average. And again, you can play around with this a little bit. Probably want to be consistent, center that one. But the same idea, right? I can highlight and then go to my formulas. And this time I want to average these over here. Click in there and I can see that it's averaging. And if those formulas don't work, you can obviously build your own formula. So I could go equals and then use bed mass, and this cell plus this cell plus this cell, close bracket, divided by 3. That'll give me the average. Okay, I see that we've got 3 decimal places, which is a little different than the one above. But that would work as well, and I could drag that down. But I'll be consistent here and drag this formula down, the one that's kind of automatic. The reason why I like this one is because if I was to add columns in here, then it would continually average even if I added a column. So I'm actually going to drag this formula down all the way. It's going to get rid of my decimals, I'm sure, yeah. Okay, but if I was to go over here, right click and insert a column, and then throw in a new number here, just making up any number, it's automatically gonna calculate the average for me if I do that. And so that's a handy way to do it. I'm going to get rid of all that now. Okay. Okay, I'm going to put a grand total in here. I'm going to merge this cell. I'm just going to call this the grand total in here, and I'll merge these two cells as well, and then I'll take all of these. So in this case, I am going to put in a formula. This is going to equal this cell plus this cell plus this cell, and that's my grand total there. Again, probably should format and make this look consistent. Oh, so it took away my, so I'll just merge that again. And so anyway, okay, so I got a grand total. Now sometimes what you can do is link cells, and so you know, if you were to give a spreadsheet to somebody else or something, or you wanted them to see only parts of the, instead of seeing the whole sheet, maybe you only want someone to see these totals. And so I'm just going to make a sheet here, and I'm just going to rename this to link. Okay, so let's say I wanted to make a totals sheet for somebody. Maybe I just want to share just this sheet with somebody. So I can make totals, and I remember those years, 2015 and 2016. And what if I had 10 or 12 years? Again, you could just highlight these. As long as you have two, it'll start to guess what you're doing, and then do that kind of thing. Anyway, I remember we only have 3 years. But what I can do here, what I can do here is, I want to delete all. Stupid. Okay. What I can do here is link this cell. So I could say this cell equals, and then I can come back here and say I want it to equal this. Enter. And then over here, same thing, equals, and then I can come back here and say I want it to equal whatever's in this cell here, and then enter. And so the same idea. Let's see if it'll guess what I'm doing. Just make this a little bit bigger. Okay, did it equal that other one? Yes, it did. So that if I come in here and I made a change to something, let's just change this to whatever, 999. Whoops, I don't want the 0 in there. I'm just changing this to a bunch of numbers here. Just make it large enough to see it. Okay, 108 million. So if I come over to this linked cell, it should be, and so it's linked up. So it's whatever happens over here is automatically happening over there. And so that's a nice way to do it, instead of coming over here and copying this and then pasting it here and having to update it every time you make a change in here. You'll have to come to this sheet and update it manually. You don't want to have to do that. And so that's what linking cells is all about. Another thing I can do is a value lookup, a VLOOKUP. And so let's say that I'm building this. I just merge these cells here. So I merge these cells. Let's say I'm making a sheet for customers, and they only want to know the totals, and maybe they only want to know certain information from this sheet. Like, imagine I had hundreds of rows of information instead of just this small amount. But maybe they only want to know about the wheat or something. So what I could do is do my spring wheat here, and my winter wheat. Maybe they only want to know about wheat. I need to merge these two. Here's one. Okay, so what I can do is a value lookup. So let's say I only care about 2017. And so it makes sense right now that I should just go here and look up 2017 in spring and copy and paste. But if I have bunches of data, especially if the data is changing, I can do a value lookup. So what I do here is I go to my formulas. Sorry, go to my, oops, I want to put it right here. I go to my formulas, I do a lookup and reference, and here's a VLOOKUP, a value lookup, and it brings up a little kind of a wizard to help me through it. So the first question is what value do you want to look up? And it's on this page, so as soon as I click this formulas page, it adds that information into the wizard, and I'm trying to look up spring wheat. And then it's asking me, in which area do you want me to look, the array? Again, I want you to look on this page, and I want you to look in all of this area here. So I'm looking for the word spring wheat in all of this, in this range. Okay, so that's where it's looking. And now it's asking me, if I find it, what do you want me to display? And so what I want them to display is the information in this column, which when I highlighted this, it was the fourth column, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm actually going to type in the number 4, not the page. I don't need to tell them which page, because they know, because of the range, I want them to display the 4th column information. If I put a 5 in there, it would be an error. So I want the 4th column because that's 2017. And then down here, I only have 2 options. It's either true or false. And actually, true is not what I want. I want false. And false means that it displays the information exactly as it sees it. True means it might display something close to that value, and I don't want that. I want that to be false. And so what I see here is I should format this number to add those commas, but it's basically 2,612,000, and that's what I see here, 2,612,000. So it's looking on the other page, and again, I could do a VLOOKUP here. And so as things change, if things were changing over here, it would constantly display the correct value over here, and that's a VLOOKUP. So another thing I can do is sort, but we got to be really careful with sorts. So let's say that in 2016, I want to find out what my big sellers were. I want the biggest production at the top and the smallest at the bottom. So what a lot of people will do is come and highlight this, and then they'll go and sort that. But if I sort that from largest to smallest, it's not going to sort the things beside it. And so I'm actually going to wreck. It'll probably throw a warning up at me. It's asking me, do I want to expand the selection? In other words, if I sort right now, it'll move this column and leave the columns on the other 2 sides the same, and it'll wreck that data. So what I need to do is I need to sort all, and I need all of this stuff to stay tied together. So I'm going to highlight all of this information, but I want to sort by 2016. So I need to do kind of a custom sort here. And so if I sort, and I want to sort here by column, see this one, 2016. All right, ooh, and I want to sort biggest to smallest. So I got to change this. There we go. Biggest to smallest, and I'm going to sort by 2016. And then I say OK. Okay, now I can see that this is in order from biggest to smallest, but it hasn't messed any of the other information. For example, if I look at soybeans and I see that it's 1,380,000, and I go back to my original information, soybeans 1,000,003, it's consistent. I haven't wrecked anything, and that's an important thing to be able to do when you sort. Okay, the last thing I want to do is make a chart, so I just go Insert, and I can choose any one of these charts. I'm going to choose pie chart here, and I'll make this a little larger here, give myself some room. And so I need to select the data that I want. So I definitely want these categories over here, and then any year that I want, just to make it not too confusing. So I'm going to hold, if I want to select different columns, let's say I'll hold Control on my keyboard, select those, and then select maybe 2017, and it starts to guess what I want the chart to look like, and it often guesses right. Here it is right here. Here's my chart. It looks a little congested there at the top. I can add a chart title, make it look a little professional here. This was 2017 production, I believe. 2017 production. And I can also add some data labels. Again, a little congested at the top. That doesn't look so great. I can click on some of these labels, go back to my home, and change colors on them if I really wanted to. Whatever, make them orange. But yeah, it looks a little congested, so I could go back to my filter here, and as I highlight some of these, it shows me which ones. Maybe these minor ones, customers maybe don't care about those or something. I could start to delete some of those ones and then apply it, and it'll change how my chart works. And yeah, if I wanted to put this chart into PowerPoint, it'd be very easy just to copy this and copy this, and then open up a PowerPoint presentation and paste it in there.